thank you for coming. If you are not already a member of BALSA, I would kindly ask that you sign up to be a member. We have a lot of different events throughout the year, and it's just really great to be part of our community. We have bios of our panelists, so you can read about what they're doing, what kind of law they practice. We also had elections. We sent out an email to all of our members. We have two great candidates who are running for president, Jasmine, if you just want to wave, and Shapley was also running for president. So if you received that email, do me a favor, it takes 2 seconds to vote, but you can read their bios as well and pick who you want to be the next president. Either way, I think either one of them will be great for BALSA and the community. And then tomorrow's Thursday, we're having professional headshots. So if you're interested, also you can sign up later on. So we're gonna start by welcoming and introducing our panel. And then we'll have some questions for them, and then we'll have time for you to ask questions that you would like to ask. So I was asked to start with you, Sophia. So let's start right here. If you can tell them what your name is, graduation year, area of practice, and just a little fun fact, one thing you were so worried about during your 1L or during law school that turned out not to matter as much as you thought it would. Does that make sense? Perfect, thank you.
Hello everyone, my
You
name
can
is
move that forward to you so you're more comfortable, please.
How's this?
Perfect.
My name is Sophia. I graduated from Massachusetts School of Law in December of 2025. I am currently practicing juvenile law and child welfare cases as well. My memory from MSL for my 1L year that I thought was a really big deal at the very beginning were getting things right during a cold call and getting things right during mock arguments in writing class. I thought that if I was wrong, then I was never going to be a good attorney. And that's not the case at all. Being wrong taught me a lot more than being right. So don't be afraid of cold calls. And at the end of class, no one is going to remember what you said. So
That is true, and I'm sure a lot of you are in contracts now, so you know exactly what she's talking about. When Dean Sullivan goes, you, and you know, I've been there, but that is true.
Hi, my name is Freddie Amos or Thomas. I'm a 2024 graduated class. I guess what I was more concerned about was getting the rule of law down, you know, to every single, you know, letter. And Mariah will tell you a little different later, but you know, at the end of the day, it's about applying it. It's about how can you, you know, take what you know, what your life experience are, and actually translate that to, you know, to paper. You know, don't forget what you know, like outside of the books, and you know, apply. So that's, you know, I guess my responsibility.
Did you say what area of law?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing personal injury. As a, you know, you first year, second year, third year attorney, you will learn that you will do anything that comes into your office, especially when you have friends around that will send you emails, say, hey, you can take care of this for me. So, but yeah, but mainly I do personal injury. That's my area.
Thank you, and then we have Mariah.
Good evening, everyone. So glad I could be here tonight. I'm kind of like surprised, like I'm on this side, on this side of the table. Yes, my name is Mariah Kajust. I graduated in December 2024, and my area of life, just like Freddie just said, I'm a solo practitioner, so I'll take mostly anything that comes across my desk. I've been doing mostly family law, and I started out with a little bit of immigration, so that's kind of what I'm doing right now. As to the question of what was underwhelming or I thought was going to be hard or I worried about that ended up not being such a big deal, I have to admit, everything was a big deal to me. Nothing was underwhelming. Everything was overwhelming. So I don't even have an answer for that because it was It was a lot. It was a lot.
I'm sure we all can relate. And last but not least, Teresa.
Hi, I'm Teresa Headley. I finished MSL in December of 2022, and I graduated with the graduation ceremony in June of 2023. I am with a estate planning law firm in Waltham. I'm coming up on my 3rd year anniversary there in June. Like we had graduation June 3rd and I started on June 5th. So, but yeah, regarding the question, let's see. So what was I worried about 1L here that wasn't a big deal? I was a non-traditional student, which probably most of you are. I, came to law school after being out of undergrad for well over a decade. And so I was more concerned about, trying to fit in socially. And after a while, I instead of me walking in my truth and being confident as to who I am, it was a little awkward, but once I started to find my tribe and people that I could really relate to and study with, it wasn't a big deal, and it really helped me through the remaining time in law school. So, just being confident in who you are.
Thank you. One of the things I want to point out is that we also really wanted to have more recent graduates who passed the bar and are practicing attorney, because it feels a little bit more relatable, right? 2025, we're just in 2026. So it's not like she did it, they did it like 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and you're like, is it the same thing? You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the things that was very important, and I hope you all can relate. I know everything that they are saying here. When I was a 1L, I thought about all these things, and I still do. So it is okay. We can start asking some questions now. I'll ask questions. Whichever one of you want to go first can go first. If just 2 of you relate to the question, you can take it. Is that fair? Okay. The first question, well, it's not really a question, but if you could just briefly take us back to your 1L year at Mass School of Law. What surprised you the most about law school?
Okay, so I guess I'll go first. Okay. Everyone was in undergrad, and you remember undergrad, and I just wasn't expecting it to be as rigorous as it really was. I really didn't like reading a lot. I used to like reading, like leisure reading, but reading of all these cases, and I was just like, oh my gosh, cases from the 1800s or 17s, whatever, and I'm just like, what is all of this, So it took me a while to get used to reading the cases and doing the briefs. Yeah, that was a big surprise for me. Yeah.
Reading cases where we're like, is this English? Do I speak English?
Yeah, it felt like a different language. Yeah.
Any one of you want to take that on too?
I can go. I do have an interesting story about my 1L, my first semester, I think. And I'm glad that Professor Rodriguez is in the room because it involves him. Yes, we'll appreciate, because it's going to be important. So, it's nothing to say. So, as an undergrad, I graduated 3.5. As a master's, I graduated 3.7. Thinking like, I'm a good student, I got this. My first midterm in law school, I got a 30. And as usually it is, they put all the midterms in the front. You have to come up front, you got your piece of paper. I literally grabbed my paper and I froze. I could not walk outside from the front to go back to my desk. My eyes were welling up. I was about to cry because I knew the time that I put in to study. And how dare I get a 30? I have never seen that number before on a paper that I ever turned in. And I was about, like, I literally could not move. And then Professor Rodriguez grabbed me and brought me outside over there. The class was over there. I don't know if you still have that classroom, but he brought me outside and got me into another room, and another student followed because they also had a bad grade, and they were like, they wanted to talk to him. Because, you know, you have to write it word for word with like commas and like semicolons. And I was like, I would not be so upset, Professor, if I didn't put in the time. But I knew the time that I put in. And now I don't know what I'm going to do. Should I even go back to your class? And this is what he said, and I'll never forget it. He said, Mariah, I saw people that had zeros pass my class and graduate college and now practicing. You have to make that decision. And he basically walked out. He said a couple of other things, but I remember that. And I went home that night. It actually took me 2 weeks to decide, was law school for me? It took me 2 weeks because I was like, a 30. How do I get a 30? But I'm here on this side. That's why it's kind of surreal to me, because you have somebody who had a 30 and is now speaking to you. So that is what I remember from my 1L, and I'll never forget it. I say that speech all the time because it had to make a decision. Was I gonna take the grit? Was I gonna continue? Or was I gonna let that 30 define me? So that's what I remember about my 1L.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think
Professor Rodriguez.
particularly-
You guys are gonna need these, especially for the bar exam, to remember the definitions.
I think a lot of people can relate to that when you were like at the top of your class and now you're in law school and you're not. Or you're getting a bad grade for midterm and you're crying up in there. And you think this is the end. And the professors are like, no, you can still do well, but you don't believe it, right? Because you're just so focused on that paper. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone else?
I guess one thing that I remember about 1L was the fact that, again, we all were, you know, the COVID time, right? So, yeah. So 2020, that was the spring of 2020, that was my first, you know, semester here. You know, COVID happens, we all kind of scatter, and you guys might have like some online classes now, but we didn't have that. So we had to kind of like figure it out, and how much we were able to adapt and kind of take that into the bar and say, hey, if I was able to do this whole new language, especially for me, and translate it and actually make sense for me, you know, the bar will be fine. Like I can actually pass this. So I guess my point with this is, even if it is like, if you think it's the worst class or the worst grade that you give a guy, you can turn that around and actually make it to the other side. So.
Thank you. Would you like to take that out too, or?
I'll answer. One of the most surprising things for me in my 1L year was the underlying competitiveness that there is in the room, because of course you've all excelled in your other lifetimes before this and before law school. And then you add the factor of the curve grading, and I had never seen that before. So now I'm like, I have to be better, I have to be the best one in the class and hopefully better than the one next to me to get, you know, however many good grades are out there. And it's something that you kind of just learn to live with, and you learn to manage that you are the only person you can control, and asking somebody what they got in that quiz does not matter. What matters is going downstairs and studying for whatever quiz or exam you have next. But whatever the person next to you gets does not matter. And even if you know everybody's grade in class, it's not going to be indicative of what yours will be. The only thing that will be is your studying and the amount of work that you put into this.
Thank you. Speaking about studying, finals is in 2 weeks, no pressure. What strategies did you use for studying, or techniques that worked for you and something that didn't work for you as well?
I'll take this first. What works for everybody else or anybody else, it's not gonna work for you, right? If you are somebody that does audio, that does visual, go to that. The reason why I'm saying that, because I am a person that is, I know that I gotta be up at 4 in the morning and 4:15, I gotta be listening to something. That's when my brain is actually awake, believe it or not. So learning about yourself and what works for you. Don't worry about the other person, as Sophia said, next to you, like, oh, they study 12 hours. But you might only need 30 minutes of listening, and actually you will get what, what the class is about. So if you are, if in undergrad or whatever before, whatever you habit was, go back to that. Don't change it. Because if you try to change it and make it something else that you see somebody else do here, it's gonna affect you.
You just heard that I was like a really good student in my undergrad years. It took me about 1.5 years to find what works for me. As you know, like I got a 30 for my first test, so obviously that didn't work for me. But what eventually worked for me was rewriting my, we have to do all of these outlines, yes. And rewriting them in my own words, rewriting them and rewriting them and rewriting it to the point now I know like, oh, this section is about this section about that. And when I kept rewriting them, they stuck a little bit more. So I remember coming here and I got kicked out of the adjunct professors. But I used to write on that board. Me and other people would just write on that board and we would just write, as much of the sections as we could. And we would erase it and we would try to go back and write it from memory again. And then if we forgot, we're like, oh, look at it, and then we would rewrite it. So for me, it was repetition. That's not how I used to study, but like you just said, Freddie, whatever works for you, I just tried it. And by the time like it caught on like 1.5 years later, it started getting a lot easier. I actually had good grades.
And yes, I do agree. What works for one person doesn't work for another person, but sometimes some people don't even know how to study. Some people don't know how to do flashcards, or they don't know about writing things over and over again. So that's why I'm asking. But still, stick to what's working for you. And if you didn't know about a strategy, try it out and see how it works for you. Anyone else?
I would say to do your outlines and start outlining early. I know some of the semester is almost over, but for those that are going to take more semesters or you're not graduating this semester, start your outlines early. And for me, I am a visual learner, so when I did my outlines, I color coded them. So like some words, like I'll do elements or definition is orange or one color, and elements are blue or whatever. So on my outline, I had different colors, and then I would write. I have my whiteboard with my different color markers and just go through the outline. As I'm writing it, I'm trying to visualize and categorize it and have like a mental map of how it relates and what the elements are. So just be honest with yourself and figure out what's the best way to study. Not everybody is like to study in big groups. Not everybody, can just listen. Some people have to write. But just figure out who you are, what works best, and then stick to it. Stick to it. Consistency.
One of the best things for me when I was studying was going into your study space, acknowledging the commitment you were about to make with yourself for however long you were going to study for. If that means putting your phone on Do Not Disturb and not answering your mom or your kids' phone calls for an hour, then that's what it takes. And putting yourself in the best headspace. If that means going for a walk before you start to study, then that's what you do, because that is how you're going to get the most out of it. I also, I took comparison 3 times and took the bar twice, so I've done a lot of studying. And one of the last things that I tried to figure out was what exactly is my studying style, which I should have done much sooner. And one of the things I did was I took a personality quiz, one of those INTJ, it tells you what kind of personality type you are. And then I went into ChatGPT and asked, how do people with this personality type study best? And then it told me all the ways that they study best, and then I cross-referenced that with what I know works for me. I wouldn't spend more than 10 minutes on this because you already have the answers. It's within you, you know it. but just taking the time to really evaluate how you are spending your time.
Thank you. One of the things you just mentioned is that if you have to turn off your phone to not answer your mom's phone call or your child's phone call, that one is a little hard. You've got to do that. And a lot of our students here are parents, full-time workers. They have a lot of different responsibilities. We wear different hats. So what was that like for you when you were in law school with your responsibilities that you already had, if you had any, and then balancing law school with all of that?
I'd like to start with that. I'm a parent. I'm a single parent. As a matter of fact, I brought my daughter here. This is Angelica sitting in blue. I brought her here to be in all the brains, so she gets some. I also brought my mom, who's right there. She's wearing that beautiful black hat. And that was the people that were my biggest supporters. You can't do it alone. You literally have to have a village with you. However, my village knew that this was important to me. I literally asked my daughter permission. I took the bar twice. I asked my daughter permission if I could take the bar the second time, because the last year of school, I'm almost emotional. She really didn't see me. I didn't go to any soccer games because I was a comp. I didn't do anything, but my mom was there. She took care of her. She made sure she got home, she was okay. I had other friends that would pick her up for soccer games, drop her off for soccer games. They did not see me, but that's how committed I was to this. So I agree with Sophia when she says don't answer their phone. I literally tell them that this is what I want to do. And then when I graduated, I put my my certificate in my mom's hand and said, this belongs to you because you prayed for me the whole time. And I give it to my daughter. I said, this belongs to you because you allowed me to do my dream. Because I love being a mom, and I did not want to take away from being a mom to go to school. So that's why I asked her permission, and I would have gladly stayed home and be with her. She said that she didn't want me to because she went through a lot. Her love language is quality time, and this is what I did not have. Therefore, I would say balancing, if you want to be if that's what you want to do, you guys, there's no work-life balance. I'm just gonna be honest. For me, I can speak for myself, there was no work-life balance. It was doing this. I had to go to work because I had to keep a roof over our heads. But when I came, I literally told them I work from home from here. That's why I was working from home. But this year, that's what I told you. I got kicked out of the of the adjunct professor lab because I was there working at the same time. But I knew what I wanted to do, and now I can say I'm on this side doing what I actually want to do. So that was my work-life balance, but it was really the last year of school and the year for studying for the bar exam. So, thank you for sharing.
I guess, funny story that my son was born 2 days before I started law school. I actually showed up to the intro with the band and steel from the hospital. I literally left Lawrence General to come and introduce myself to the class. With that, I'm saying this is, you can do it. If you really want it, you can do it. My son has seen me for his 6 years of life just in front of a book, in front of a computer. He understands that. I guess, and kind of going with what Mariah was saying, it's routine. Create a routine, develop it, and you can balance it out. I know that I gotta get up at 4 in the morning so I can work out, so I can give my son breakfast, so I can get to work, come back home, study. I kind of figured it out where I needed to move stuff around, and you're gonna lose a lot of sleep, but but balance. Just make a routine and execute.
Thank you. So my next question is, a lot of times we're in school and we're learning things and we're like, we're never gonna use this, right? A lot of things you learn in math class, you're like, where is that now, right? What was some of the things, or one thing that you learned from law school that you actually use the most in your practicing career?
Research. You gotta do a lot of research. You gotta do a lot of reading. That's one thing.
I would say time management. You have several classes, and every professor think that that's the only class you have, and you have commitments outside of school. You have to balance it all. You have to be able to have great time management skills so you can get it all in and figure it out. And the same thing for once you graduate and pass the bar and start working, you're gonna need the same time management skills to be able to manage several clients, several cases, or whatever's going on. You're gonna have to be able to manage it. So the time management skills. Yeah.
Are we good, or next question? Okay. So now, the opposite. What is one thing that law school did not prepare you for?
Manage clients. And their expectations of what they want from you, and they want to call you at all different times of day and night. And if you don't respond in the right time, you haven't done a good job or something like that. You have to have good boundaries from the beginning. Lucky for me, I did get a mentor. I got 2 mentors, in fact. One to help me actually set up to make sure I was compliant with the state of Massachusetts, and I got another one to oversee my actual cases to make sure I was doing the right thing. But she said from the beginning, what kind of lawyer do you want to be? Do you want to answer calls at 11 o'clock at night? Because I did that one time and I was up to 1 something. Or do you want to have like regular business hours? And I know that I want to be a mom, and so I had to set up expectations with my clients from the beginning and say, these are my work hours, and I will call you at this time. And you know, shockingly enough, people will find the time during business hours to call you when they need you. So managing clients for me was never taught.
I would say law school does not teach you self-care or how to speak to yourself or your clients with compassion. That is something you're gonna have to find within yourself. And I think the best way to do that is to get outside and touch some grass and speak to your loved ones and speak to your community, and not to distance yourself that much from them. It's gonna be natural. You're gonna be inside this building studying for 9 hours straight. But there is a beautiful walking path out there, and you can call a friend and just realize what it's like to have real conversations, because you're gonna quickly realize that not everybody wants to talk about law school. But it's gonna be all you can talk about. So get outside, touch some grass, and remember to treat yourself and your classmates with kindness.
Thank you. Teresa, did you want to share something? Or not?
I got one for you. One thing that you're gonna hear a lot here is we don't do numbers. We learn about the rule of law. You're gonna need to learn about how to manage an account when you get out of here. So math and a calculator will help you a lot. So just
They
keep that.
teach you business and laws.
Oh, now they do? Okay. A couple years ago there was.
They are working on that.
Because, yeah, an IOTA account and balancing and all that stuff, it gets tough real quick.
I do know that some of you have to go to contracts. I want to give you some time to ask questions. I'll ask one more question right before that. So obviously you were there in their seat. You took the bar, you passed, you are now practicing. What was the hardest thing, the hardest part of transitioning from a law student into an actual attorney, practicing attorney?
No hearing his voice in the background. It's gonna happen, I promise you. You will sit at the bar when everything is quiet, and all you're gonna hear is Coin and Rodriguez telling you the answers, trust me. I guess, kind of piggybacking what Sophia said, it's dealing with clients. Kind of going from, being on your own, kind of studying all this other stuff, to now listening to people's problems and figuring out how to make it better for them. It's tough, and especially when you have 3 or 4 different people that don't like each other. Estate planning will tell you. So it becomes tough, but it's something that you gotta develop, and it takes time, but you will get there.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. I do have more questions, but just in case some of you will be leaving for contracts, I do want to open up to you guys if you want to ask any questions for our panelists. Yes.
Those of you who had careers before you came to MSL, how did you adjust with working your career, then dropping the career, and then switching over after the bar? Like, were there any similarities or any differences? Or what made it what made it difficult, and what made it easy if it was at some point?
So I'm an HR professional. I've been doing HR for over 18 years. So I trained managers, directors, VPs, and I knew like my strong why I wanted to do this. So I'm actually still transitioning. I do HR work, but the idea is to leave HR and to do legal work full time. So I'm still in a transitional period, but I'm actually having fun doing law, and I just can't wait to leave my JOB. Yes. So for me, it's time management, like you were saying, Teresa, because I do have to stay up and like work my cases, but I'm enjoying getting to know that side of it, and I'm kind of ready to make that transition. Yeah, I'm just ready.
These are the great students. Contracts is at 6, and they're like, gotta be in my seat.
We don't take it personal.
Totally understand.
Any other questions? Yes.
So as you work with colleagues and other law schools, what is something that you feel you benefited from coming to MSL, benefiting might not be like as comfortable with, or you might not experience with?
That's a good question.
I would say that a lot of them are not taught how to litigate, and everything at MSL is an active litigation. In writing class, you're making an argument. In contracts, you're also sometimes making an argument when you have those UCC questions. And other law schools, it's just reading. It's just reading and spitting back out case law. And there's nothing much more than that. And that really shows when you're in the courtroom and you can see somebody put something so beautifully, and then somebody else who just regurgitated law and 2 facts and didn't humanize their client.
And Sophia, you're really right, because I talked to a law clerk, and Linda, you know that, you know Molly, she said that a lot of the people that she meets that are MSL graduates are actually really good litigants or really good lawyers, where she goes to other ones, I don't even want to mention it, but she goes to other ones like, oh, those are like the worst lawyers who go to that school, so that's what it is. But she was saying that when she meets an MSL lawyer, she's like, oh yeah, they're really good, they know how to present themselves. So I would say that by coming to this school, you are getting a really good background. It's tough, don't get me wrong, but you are getting a good background to get you started actually practicing.
I've actually heard this from a different panelist before, that MSL breeds litigator, and we have a trial team program that you guys should do if you think you want to be a litigator. Any other questions?
Yes. So of the top of you said you took the bar more than once. What do you think you didn't do the first time around, and how did you correct and get yourself ready? And how long did you take to study
The first time I took it, I did exactly what the miss told me to do, step by step. By the end, I think I was 94% finished with the program, and I did not do well. I was burnt out, I was tired, I didn't talk to anybody. After I took the bar exam, I don't even think I knew how to speak to somebody who was not going through the experience. And the second time, I took a much more holistic approach to it. I did not allow myself to open a book or even read a flashcard until I had either meditated or done some sort of physical exercise, some sort of natural dopamine. And that made all the world difference, and I set really serious boundaries with myself and my self-care. Sundays, I didn't even pick up a book, and I started reading research that your brain needs a rest day. You cannot study all 7 days, and it's crazy that this FEMA schedule tells you to sometimes. It's wild. So just approaching it the most holistic way that is good for you, whatever your practice is.
And I'll just add on to that, taking a holistic approach actually helps you feel more confident And if you go into the bar exam confident that say, I know this, I know this and I can do this and I'm going to pass, I think mindset trumps, mindset is top tier as to, going into the exam. So you definitely have to have the right mindset. So, yeah.
And I'd like to add to it, so I took it twice, and the first time I was burnt out. I just came out from comp and I was straight into studying, and I did the 7 days a week. Like I said, I work for a living, so I would come home, I studied 2 o'clock in the morning, and I did not pass. I took it the second time, much more holistically. I decided I was gonna exercise every morning, so I walked in the morning. And I studied for like 25 to 30 hours. I would study 3 days a week and the weekends. And then I went to soccer games with my daughter. I did pray a lot. My mom helped me pray. That was important to me. So I actually studied less, but I studied strategically. I got my grades back. You can actually order your grades when you don't pass. And I found out what my lowest 3 topics were. So when I would study the topics, I would always add 2 or 3 questions from my lowest topic onto my additional questions that I was studying. So it was strategy. I got a tutor. Yes, I got a tutor. I paid. I invested in myself. And then that's what made the difference for me the second time. And I did well.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on to that too. To touch the different subjects. So, like just about every day, I would do at least 5 questions, just 5 MBE questions, and just to kind of keep the subjects fresh, and on top of doing the other part of the program. And I think just touching it pretty frequently, just a little bit. And you don't have to do 10 hours every day. Just some days, just do the 5 questions. Just get the day started, 5 questions, and go on about your day, and then pick it up in the evening or whatever. But just kind of be in it consistently. Just consistency. And if consistency is 5 days a week, then it's 5 days a week. If consistency is 6, that's what it is. Just be consistent a little bit at a time, and just know that there's life outside of the bar exam too.
I have a question. So I have this question because of a story that was shared with me when I was doing mock trial. So what is one of the most common thing that is overlooked, that you see, like inequalities or inequities that you see Black lawyers face, or that you have faced while you've been practicing? Something that's very common, that you see common, but like people don't even think that it happens.
Every day since I have my bar license and I've gone into court, I have been asked, are you the interpreter? It hasn't been that long. I just got sworn in December, but has yet to stop. And it's just something unfortunately, you have to just politely correct people. No, actually, I'm counsel on the matter. And start breaking down those biases that people have, and introduce yourself to those people. My name is so-and-so, what's yours? And now they won't ever ask you that question again, hopefully.
I'll have to say, so I don't go to court a lot. I've gone to court a couple times, but I've had people leave other lawyers because I was Black and I was a woman, because they're not represented. And I've had people leave because they don't speak their language and they don't understand. Like, I'm Haitian background, so I speak Creole. I've had people who had good lawyers and leave their lawyer because I don't understand what he or she is saying, so I want you. And so it's we're very underrepresented, the Black and brown community. I've gone to courtrooms where I'm the only Black person, like Dudley. There was no other Black people. I was like, where is Dudley? So, and people have touched me like, oh, you're a lawyer? I'm like, yeah. Can I have your card? Because there's no representation. They don't even know if I'm good or not. They're just the fact that I'm willing to listen to them and I can understand them and I take my time. And it's needed. It's really needed. So that's one thing I didn't expect, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's because I never really had too much run with the law, but I didn't expect that people would come to me just because of that.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other question? Don't be shy. Yes.
How you doing? I don't know if this has happened yet to me, but at what point during your law school career did you find yourself stop thinking like a regular person and start thinking like I've been told that happens, so I'm just curious.
I have a very specific memory actually. It was 1L first semester, and I was out to Hot Pot with not law school friends. And I thought, wow, this is so dangerous. My sleeve could go over and my arm would blow up and dinner would be over. And then I'd maybe have a lot of money and I could pay my law school debt. And then I was like, oh wow, that's a really crazy thought. Like no one else is eating this Hot Pot thinking, what's the risk here?
Anyone else?
I mean, I feel like, after the second year, you go into that mindset. Everything that you see is like, all right, what's the liability? If like I'm a lieutenant with the North Andover Police Department, and one of the things that I do now is anybody that comes in to be like, hey, LT, we got this. Like, I'm like, how is that gonna look in court? Like, am I gonna need to pull you out of the report because you don't have the elements? Like, get everything right before you even get here, because you're not gonna bring a prisoner back, and now we have half of the elements, and that comes thanks to that guy back there, and I will say, not just that, but Professor Rodriguez actually pulled me back one day, and we were talking, and he's like, you need to stop thinking like a cop, and it's the truth. Because everything that I was writing, it's, how can I get this done as quick as possible so I can move on to the next call? I needed to look at the elements. I actually needed to look at the law from the other side, right? And that's kind of what you learn. That's, the beautiful thing to have practicing professors that can actually teach you how to just go on the other side of the table, right?
I have questions. A lot of times when we are working, we have demanding jobs, and I do understand that being an attorney is demanding, and we need to set boundaries. So what boundaries have you had to set to make sure that you maintain your sanity or you maintain your family separate from the job?
Schedule. Set a schedule. If it's 9 to 5, it's 9 to 5. You don't pick up phone calls after 5 on the weekends. Every client that you have, they think that they are the only client that you have. And they're gonna call you, text you, email you, call you, text you, email you, until you answer. If it's a weekend, just let it be. On Monday, they're still gonna be there. The matter's still gonna be there.
Well, honestly, I'm still working on that. honestly, I'm still working on that, but I do take work home. I'm not in the court, so I'm at a desk. But I do take work home, and I do work on weekends, but I said that I wasn't gonna work as much on the weekends this year in 2026. And one boundary I did set though is I don't have my email coming to my cell phone. So I don't, once I leave the office, if I don't log in, I don't see the email. So that's one thing, but I do still work on the weekends.
Were you gonna share something, Sophia?
I would say find your zen or your happy place or whatever that is and find it quickly, because if you can tap into that and you've had a terrible day, you can still go back and study. Maybe a walk, maybe a few deep breaths. I remember one time I felt so overwhelmed. I was on academic probation, and it was the beginning of the semester. I went to Caldas and I was like, I'm never gonna pass, I'm gonna fail, I might as well just drop out right now, get me the slip. And she was like, no, you need to meditate. And I told her, Professor, you've assigned this much work, I have this much work over here. And she said, that probably means you need another 10 minutes to meditate. And I was like, she's talking about meditating for 20 minutes, and she wants us to make an argument in 48 hours, and there's 100 pages of reading to do. But whatever it is that's gonna allow you to recenter yourself, find that soon and practice it as much as possible, and let everybody else know too.
Thank you. I really appreciate that you you really value self-care, because that's something that a lot of people don't really talk about or even know how to do. And it goes a long way. And when you're young, sometimes you think you can conquer the world, you don't have to take a break, but you do. So thank you for echoing that in almost every question. So I like that, thank you. Any other question? Ashley?
My question is, how do you handle like tough situations along with like maybe studying or going to work? I know you guys kind of talked a little bit about that, but if you can kind of just go a little bit deeper on like, you know, what does it look like to be able to juggle this kind of profession along with like personal issues to be exact?
During my father passed away, and and I, you know, I was telling you I was studying, and I had to take some time to grieve. I didn't really grieve as much as I wish I wanted to, but I remember, like, you know, Professor Dimitriadis, she was my academic advisor, and I just told her, and she was like, you know, take the time you need, but you know, you need to go ahead and do that. So I did. I went, took my family, did some grieving, and I decided that my dad would want me to pass. My dad would want me to finish and to pass, and not to use that as an excuse. There was a lot of other things outside. I'm a single parent. I have, you know, a family that helped me, supported me, friends. I told them, hey, I'm in school, that's what I'm trying to do, help me. I was not beyond asking for help. And so I took some of the time, you know, to grieve, but I also asked for help outside of what was happening with studying. So I think for me, that managing one was knowing ahead of time where my kid was going to be, what she was eating. That made me feel good that at least I could do that, and she was still taken care of. But also when I needed it, I did take some weekends off and just like, oh my gosh, I can't read one more book. So I had to make that decision, but I made it as I went on. Because when I decided I was gonna finish that last 2 years, I was like all in. But it was really about deciding when is the time to take the time off and not to open a book. And that made the difference for me, yeah. So even taking the bar exam on the second time, just like you did, Sophia, I didn't study every day, but I studied strategically.
Anyone else? Yes, Shaplai.
I mean, anybody can answer the question, but I think it's probably more suitable for maybe like child welfare. The question is, I had to write it down, so I was like, how did your experience here at MSL prepare you to work with clients who hold intersectional identities? And in what ways did it teach you to use that advocacy along with like Black letter law to like use it creatively in your advocacy for them?
So I actually took this really amazing class the first time it was offered. When I took it, it was called Critical Justice, but I think the name might have changed. What's it called, Professor Hemingway? Systemic
I took that class.
Advocacy.
It was amazing. It's a great class.
And that class really explores just that. We examine the ways systemic racism is built into every system that we deal with, especially in the court system, child welfare system, all of them. And then every week we dissect different strategies that we would use on how we would approach a situation in real life, in real practice. And that class gave me so much perspective. The textbook was really expensive, but I bought it after the class. That's how good the class was.
I still have mine.
And throughout the semester, I would go downstairs and scan the pages at the library, but after class, I was like, no, this was good. And I still read it sometimes. So take that class, everybody.
Oh, definitely will. I wonder, like, if that class wasn't, I'm so glad you. Is it, do you feel like some of the other classes were able to prepare you in that way as well?
No.
That's right.
Shaplai, I'm just curious, do you have something in mind that you, like, as you've been going through your first semester through those classes, is there something that you have in mind that you're like, oh, I wish that this came out more in contracts or whatever other class that you're taking?
There are like some torts cases where I think maybe we can have more robust discussion around like what was happening at the time, how the law changed, what it looks like from the lens of Black and brown people who maybe have been experiencing that. How would we advocate for that? I think there are many different ways we can have conversation. I think in Crim Pro, we've done that a bit. I mean, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. It's good. It was good. But I think I do think that is something that I'm really hoping, especially in like con law or crim law, that I can try to influence in the middle of the class. Because I mean, it helps. I think it would help me as a Black queer woman to have a better experience in the class and understand it just a bit better. Think of things outside of the box.
This is what I'll say is when you do graduate in practice, there's a lot of associations and bar associations that deal with that specifically, actually, and you should attend, whether there are virtual seminars or they go meet live. They actually talk about that. Personally, in my practice, I have not yet experienced it, so I can't really say from experience, but they are always offering, you know, the MCLE is offering it. If you have an association, they offer different, I see them coming through, and I think that's very important to have like a really touch and pulse of what's happening social justice wise in our community. So.
Okay, and since you are running for president, if you do become president, maybe, I don't know, do some sort of event that can tackle that, even if it's not in a specific classroom, like in a civil procedure classroom, but you know, students could attend something like that once a month or whatever that may look like. Thank you.
Yeah, I just thought it sounded like some of my people.
Anybody else?
Yeah?
Then next. Yes.
Yeah, it was No, it kind of derives from Shaplay's question, specifically in your law school career, all of you are Black or brown, right? I want to know how you navigated or managed reading those cases where clearly racism or sexism, those kinds of issues, were the underlying influence either on the decision or, you know, the judicial decision or the dispute itself, especially where your professors didn't openly talk about it and maybe they just completely ignored it. How did you deal with that? I think for some people it can be harmful, right, to read that. How did you navigate those waters in law school?
So it hit me actually in criminal law that some of the cases all the cases that we read are actual real cases. And I remember when we got to the section where there were children involved, and it hurt me so bad. I couldn't even read some of the cases, right? It was really hard. I had to go home and I actually prayed. You know, it was hard for me to say like, oh my gosh, they took advantage of this child, or this woman was beat to death, and it's like real cases. It wasn't until I took your class, to be honest with you, Professor Lemingway, that we were able to tackle those underlying issues, things that we thought that were, this is supposed to be so great, you know, about, you know, Browns versus like the school board, and then it's like, it really ended up helping the community versus helping the community. It's really with that, and I'm glad that I actually could talk about it openly, because my thoughts might be very different or something that people may not openly accept. But I would challenge people here, when you're gonna be speaking, that's what you're gonna be advocating for. I would challenge, even though that's not brought up by the professor, but you bring it up. That's what you're gonna be doing. You're gonna be bringing up some ideas that the opposite side doesn't want you to bring. I wasn't very successful doing that. It just hurt my feelings. It hurt me. And then it also solidified why I had to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
That's what I say. It solidified why I had to go out there and do it, because I'm using them in the community, like those cases, you know, children and women, or, you know, African Americans are not being treated well. It solidified why I had to continue and finish. And that's how I navigated it. But thank you for bringing that up, and I hope that you guys are in the room, bring it up and have the conversation about it, because that will be our job when you go and stand in front of a judge for your client, is to bring it up in the best way possible to make them come to your side. So that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, it definitely motivated me. I mean, you know, I wasn't one to bring it up in
Yeah.
class, you know, but the tribe that I mentioned earlier, I would have a little tribe and we would talk about it outside of class. It definitely motivated me to continue pushing forward so I can finish school, pass the bar, and practice. Now, again, I'm not in the courts, but what I'm learning is so valuable, especially for the Black and brown community, and that's what I want to do, is help the Black and brown community more. And you had mentioned about, you know, some of the cases and stuff, and in my line of work, sometimes I see, you know, I deal with a lot of trust and estates, and I see some of these clients come in and parents establish these trusts back in the 40s or 30s, and sometimes it makes me, I'm happy for them, great, but sometimes it makes me a little angry because of the social injustice that this country has had against Black and brown people, that we weren't able to establish these type of things, and it makes me more motivated to be able to help my Black and brown community. So going forward, we can, you know, establish some of the same things. I mean, we've lost a few hundred years, but at least going forward, you know, we can establish some of the same things.
And I want to add more. I'm sorry, this is like a hot topic. Because I had a client where literally their family was taking advantage of them while they were in a hospital dying. And I had to be the lawyer now advocating and say, no, you're not doing that. We're not signing this paper. They were trying to get like, a will under her name. I'm like, nope, there's undue influence here and I'm not willing to go ahead and do that. And so it's not even in the books. You see it. And then you have to now be standing up and say, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna allow you to sign this paperwork because this and this happened. So yeah, I mean, it like I said, it hurt my feelings, but now I can do something different, and now I can actually stand up and do it. And for the community, I do free stuff. Like I'll go and teach, like, this is what you need to know. This, you know, immigration, this is what you need to know. Walk with your paperwork. So I will do some free stuff, and I will come out and speak for free, just so I can give people some of the information that they have been lacking. And you know, I know we talk about the Black and brown community, but I think that every children in high school should know how to talk to a police officer. I wish we can just go to high school and just say, like, I don't care if you're principal, say nothing. You know, say nothing to your parents, get there, say nothing. Just ask, you know, I wish that this could be in schools, and that's one thing I'm working with somebody in Boston where they go to schools, and I'm gonna be speaking about that, you know, coming up. But those are little things that I can do to make a difference, and I take an opportunity to do that.
I'd like to hear your perspective, since you are in the police force, you've been for a while, and now you are an attorney. How could you just chime in a little bit about your experience?
So, from my perspective, and I work in a, you know, predominant white town, North Andover. I never had to deal with it, but I do hear others speaking and saying, hey, you know, one of the terms is like walking while brown in North Andover. It's like, you know, anybody after midnight, it's either Black or Hispanic. Like it literally became a joke. Once I became the lieutenant, that kind of stopped, right? Because now you have somebody, you know, brown leading the department. So making that joke is not okay. So it kind of helped to change the culture of my department, that now people have to come to me and be like, hey, I have this case, what do I do with it, right? So that's when you start kind of, by teaching them, people learn, you know, and especially police officers. Like, we go to an academy for 6 months, and after that, people think that we know everything about criminal law, and it's not true. Some people do want to evolve, as myself. Some other ones just want to kind of ride it 30 years in that department. But once you put yourself in that position, and that's what we're here, to advocate for others and kind of looking at it from, you know, the neutral perspective. You know, it's touchy.
Thank you. You had a question.
My question is, did you guys before come to law school already know what area you guys going to practice, and then while in law school stick with it, or you guys didn't have this while you guys here, you guys understand what exactly you're gonna do, and then when you graduate you stick to the plan? How was it?
Not really. Everybody thought that, you know, I was gonna leave policing right away and I was gonna be the dark side. I was gonna go and be a criminal, you know, attorney, and that was not the plan. I mean, I like personal injury. I think that there's a big space to help people from that side, especially against, you know, the insurance companies and all the other stuff. They're always trying to kind of, you know, play down everything that happens to people. But yeah, it's fine.
So I came, when I first started law school, I was like, oh, I want to work in affordable housing. I want to be part of a team, you know, putting together like contracts and affordable housing projects. And that's not what I'm doing. So, but I do, I like real estate, and so, and with my background before I started law school, I with the trust in estates, it's somewhat close. It does have some real estate in it, but no, I'm not doing exactly what I thought I would be doing beforehand. And also, one of the things, I had an internship one summer, and which is what I was going to suggest, that everybody should have different internships and should work to get an internship during your summers. But one of my internships was in-house at a firm and in the law department, and I had to read contracts all the time, and I in the procurement department and work on their playbook, and you like word for word, this word means, I mean, it was so into, like, they dissected each word in the agreements and stuff, and I was like, okay, I don't want to do this. Yeah. I think I'd rather watch paint dry, because I was like, no. So it just kind of helped me know that that was one thing that I didn't want to do. I was able to cross that off the list. Yeah.
Sophia, did you know what kind of law you wanted to practice when you came to law school?
I thought I wanted to practice something closer to criminal law, and I changed my mind a million times throughout my law school career, and now I'm doing something a little different than that. So I think don't commit yourself to one idea. You really don't need to make a decision until after you pass the bar exam.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question from the internship advice that you gave. I wanted to know if you did internships when you were in law school, or did you just pass the bar and you were going to get your first job? How was that? Like, how did you?
Yeah, I think I kind of lucked out. I did several internships, and I suggest everyone should. And the internships I did, they were in different areas, so I got a chance to kind of see what I wanted to do. The first one, I worked at the Northeast Housing Court, so I did have a chance to work in government and kind of see how that goes. Another one, the one I just spoke about, in-house. And then another one I worked with a small boutique firm. It was just him and another attorney, and I was like the admin. So it did kind of give me an idea that I want to go in-house, that I want to work for the government or whatnot. So it gave me a chance to kind of see different parts.
I actually worked as a law clerk for my law partner now. That's how I kind of ended up in his office, kind of partnered up with him. And again, that's how I got the law for personal injury. After the 2018 Columbia Gas explosion, that was something huge in the Merrimack Valley. He had a bunch of clients. He was, and kind of going back to the same conversation we were having earlier, you know, if you guys know about the lawsuit, there was people from everywhere. There was all, you know, all these big law firms coming in. When there was attorneys here, they could actually be the ones advocating for the people. And my partner was the only Spanish, you know, attorney involved into it. And the reason for it is because, again, it's Lawrence, it's a big Spanish community. So when I started working with him, it's like, you know, we gotta go and talk to everybody, and we can speak Spanish, we can go and talk to them, we can kind of put it together and actually make sure that people are, you know, are put back to where they were before. So that's kind of how I got into personal injury, and it's great to have it because obviously that got me, you know, office space and kind of got me started.
Anyone else? We could take a quick food break. There's food here. I'm sorry you didn't get here before that. We could grab some food and you could continue asking questions. You guys should get some food as well.